This is John Phones here from Bridgewater and Taunton College, UCU, and indeed from the Southwest region of UCU. And of course, I'm a member of the National Executive Committee on behalf of all FE colleagues in the south of England. So I hope this may be of some relevance to all of you. I'm going to share on my screen here, just very briefly, the latest announcement, which seems to be doing the rounds from the Secretary of State. Here we come. I hope you can see that now. This is something which is in FE week today. It's just started to be announced elsewhere, and it's an announcement that Bridget Phillipson, the Secretary of State for Education, is adding 190 million to the 16 to 19 sector funding rise. Now, some people will think this is very good. Personally, I think it's a pile of rubbish. But let me tell you exactly why I think it's not good. So let me repeat that again. I don't think this is good at all. I've actually just been talking to some other colleagues about this, and I think we have to recognise that this is not really anything substantial. Does it sound good? Well, it may sound good, but I don't think it is. The only thing that's going to change anything substantially is if we have binding national negotiation. That is to say, we can negotiate nationally, and I hope I will still be one of those further education national negotiators, but I may not after this Congress this weekend. Uh, Binding national negotiation, funding a national further education service, right? And not just leaving everything piecemeal to these independent fiefdoms dotted around all over the country. And we certainly know what that feels like. And imposing a national pay scale that's pegged to provide parity with schools and with the devolved nations, because all three of the devolved nations are doing better than we are in further education in England. What we have in England is utterly inconsistent as you move from one college to another. And as I was saying to a group of new staff yesterday, any college can try to poach from any other nearby college if they can offer them better pay and conditions. They would not be able to do that if we had a national pay scale imposed on us as a result of a new legal settlement. We're not going to get that overnight, but we need to be telling the government that what they've announced today is not even really scratching the surface. What it also does is allows principals effectively to do whatever they like with that money. There is no ring fencing on that 190 million going out to over 100 colleges, remember. So it isn't that good at all. And of course, colleges who have very large proportions of their funding via apprenticeship funding, probably that's not taken into account either, because this talks about 16 to 19 funding rise, and that never, ever takes account of apprenticeships. So we will have our principal quite rightly saying that this money is coming in for part of the college provision, but actually he's got to try to spread it around to all colleagues. And we applaud him for trying to do that, but it won't surprise me at all if actually he says he won't be able to do very much with it because he has other strategic priorities. And that's the wording of this message from Bridget Phillipson as well. So I think this is just a short-term expedient designed to win over principals, but I'm afraid staff are very likely just to be shafted again in a number of colleges. Unless you're in a college which is almost entirely 16 to 19, you might do slightly better out of it. There are some very large colleges, Exeter, for example, have a very, very large number of full-time 16 to 19 students. They will probably have a much better slice of this money than Bridgewater and Taunton College or the possible proposed merged college that we might have on the 1st of August. So hardly anything really. It's a movement on behalf of the government, but only a small movement. We've heard them starting to talk about U-turning on other things this week, the winter fuel allowance. They're already under pressure on other things as well. So we need a lot of people saying we are prepared to do something about this. This is still not good enough. And that's why today you will have had in your email boxes an email from UCU head office asking you, uh, please consider saying yes to whether or not you would be feel inclined to take industrial action. And we're talking about in the autumn, of course. So please consider that email very carefully. So what else does it mention in there? And I will send something out a little bit later as well with regard to this. The campaign, which is known as the New Deal for Further Education from UCU, is concerned with a number of things, but specifically three demands. One is to agree pay parity with school teachers in England. Now, of course, it's school teachers. There's no mention there of other education sectors. It doesn't take into account all of the other people that we have employed in a college like ours who are doing things like trainer assessor work with apprentices, who are academic coaches, who are technicians, who also do some teaching. All of these things need to be considered when we're talking about properly funding an education service. And yet, all they've mentioned, or all we're talking about at the moment really is trying to achieve parity with school teachers, because they're the only real benchmark that we have, because they got a 5.5% increase last year. And how did they get that? Well, unfortunately, you can't escape the fact that they went on strike. Sixth form colleges threatened to go on strike, and all of a sudden there was a deal for them as well. So you cannot escape the fact that whatever anybody says, unless you actually make a complaint, unless you actually say, no, this is not good enough, and if you then say, no, we are prepared to demonstrate that we don't like this, then unfortunately we are going to get walked all over, as it often feels every year. The second part of our national demand is a national workload agreement. Now, of course, many of you will know that workload is a significant issue for colleagues in this college and in many other colleges as well. It is the sort of thing that we are always concerned about in two respects. One is the hours, which should in some ways be regulated in terms of the weekly hours we do. The guideline we have in this college is 23 hours a week for lecturers, 22 hours a week for course leaders. But we need to have many more discussions with regard to colleagues who are in higher education, colleagues whose courses are much shorter than 36 weeks and so on. And we need to tie people down in terms of all of the other things that we get asked to do as well. Do you actually have remission for this extra project that you're running on the side of all of the teaching that you're doing? Is that calculated in Pro Solution? Do you actually have a clear statement that you can have a certain number of hours less because you are involved in this, that, and the other project, marketing, going out to schools on a regular basis, and so on and so on? And the third part of the national demand from UCU is fully funded, and this is what we've heard today, nothing like fully funded funded sector level national bargaining. Many of you will know that the bargaining system that we have at the moment, which involves people like me, is sitting down with a group of principals under the umbrella of the Association of Colleges. We agree something with them. They usually only agree a very low figure. And the main reason for that is because some of those principals who agree that then go back to their own colleges and say, oh, I can offer more than was nationally agreed. And they think that they're going to look good as a result. I mean, goodness knows why they think that's going to work, but that's what they try. And then most colleges, the majority of colleges, don't go along with that agreement anyway. They do whatever is in their own expedient self-interest. in their own particular college because they say that circumstances are different there. And I'm sorry, I just don't buy that argument at all. You know, colleagues who are working in the sector need to know that if they move to another college, they need to know that they're moving pretty much on the same pay scales, and they're moving to another college because they are going to get a different job, a promoted job or whatever. Not simply, you know, they're going to go there because they think things are going to be a little bit better. They don't always work out better anyway. But nevertheless, that's the very singular situation that we find ourselves in now. So national bargaining at a sector level, which all colleges would actually then buy into, and where all colleagues would be pretty much on the same type of scales. Now, of course, we have lots of different colleagues in different jobs, and at the moment we tend to talk about lecturers because that's where we can acknowledge the lack of parity with school teachers and so on as well. But you know, all of our colleagues who are learning support assistants, all of our colleagues who are in business support, all of our colleagues who are running exams, doing everything else that we need in order to run a college, their pay awards are all to some extent based around the agreements that we all make in our various branches with our various principals. That is to say, if we actually have someone who is prepared to talk to us, unlike the situation in a college not a million miles away from Bridgewater and Taunton, where the previous principal is still under investigation and where the Further Education Commissioners have severely criticised the practice in the past there. And part of that practice, I'm afraid, was because the principal and their oppos didn't actually speak to the unions. If you don't speak to the unions, you don't have any sort of check and balance on what you're doing. So that's what we do here. I will be writing to everyone a little bit later this afternoon, but you will all have had an email today. Please, can I urge you to consider very carefully your response to that email? And can I say once again what I said to my new staff colleagues yesterday? The best strike is the one that you don't actually have to have, because so many people have balloted for industrial action that you can sit down at the table and actually win a good negotiated settlement with your employer without needing to go on strike. That's what we should be aiming for. But you only do that with a lot of power in your back pocket. And when we actually go to negotiate and we don't have a lot of people saying they're prepared to take action, the principal knows that, and he has us over a barrel. And it makes life much more difficult, not only in negotiations, but even in casework and all those other issues that we get involved in as well. So please support your union. Please say yes. Please be prepared to ask questions about it. By all means, email me about it. By all means, contact me in other ways as well. You'll find me on Blue Sky. You'll find me you will still find me on X, Twitter, I think, although I really don't get into that very much. But by all means, do contact me or Matthew Smith, my colleague, or any of the other reps that are mentioned in the emails. We will try to do our best to discuss the issues with you and to explain anything that you find difficult to follow. And my goodness, there'll be plenty of that. So thank you very much indeed, colleagues. I'm sorry for this rather long message, but I wish you all a really good weekend following this. If you are watching this just before half term, then I hope you have a good half term. And just bear in mind, by the way, that our colleagues at our prospective partners just up the road don't have to come in during half terms. All right, something to bear in mind in future when we start negotiating again. But anyway, I look forward to seeing colleagues as we come back after a relaxing half-term break, and no doubt some of you will have questions for me. But in the meantime, please vote yes. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye-bye for now.